The Galactic War Council notices Earth's silence. The room was wide and dark, filled with voices from every corner of the galaxy. The Galactic War Council had gathered again. Dozens of alien species sat in high chairs, their eyes glowing, their armor shining the air heavy with tension. It was not a meeting for peace. It was a meeting of fear, anger, and suspicion. At the center stood High Warlord Zenther of the Krill Dominion. Tall and sharp with 4 arms and blue cracked skin, he raised one arm. And silence followed. His voice echoed strong and cold across the chamber. "There's one species that does not choose a side," he said while looking around the council chamber, his eyes glowing brighter. "They watch from afar, but they never interfere. They share trade, they talk, they smile, but they do not fight, they do not ally, they do not fear us." Whispers started among the seats. Some laughed, some frowned. One raised a voice, a green-skinned lizard-like commander from the Drac Confederation, and said, "The humans, they are soft now, they have forgotten war." But the red-eyed speaker from the Iron Clans hissed in reply, "No, they have not forgotten. They are hiding it. Their history is full of war, pain, fire, and death. They do not forget, they choose." That word "choose" made the room colder. Somehow every species had seen Earthrise. Humans had joined the galactic community only 200 years ago. They had brought new medicine, clean energy, fast-growing crops. They had shared without asking much in return. They smiled at all. They helped the weak. They rebuilt broken systems. They sent doctors, not soldiers. But still no one felt easy around them. Ambassador Volrix of the silent Tenzari species spoke next, slowly and calmly. "You all speak of humans as weak or wise, but you forget something important. We do not know what they are thinking. They speak kindly, yes, but they show us only what they want to show. I say we send someone smart, someone quiet, someone who can learn their truth." Room agreed. After a short vote, the council needed to know why humans refused war. If they had become soft, or if they had become something far worse, a spy would be chosen, one who could blend in and understand human ways. They would go to Earth and return with truth. But not everyone was happy. A whisper moved from shadow to shadow. Some feared humans, not because of their past, but because of their peace in a galaxy that breathed war. Peace was the most unnatural thing of all. How could a predator stop hunting? How could a fighter stop fighting unless they had something even deadlier waiting behind their silence? Commander Zenther once again raised his voice and spoke. "We have reason to believe the humans are not silent because they are weak. Their planet was once full of war. Yes, but then suddenly they stopped. We all have spies, we all have eyes. Yet no one has seen a single human warship in over 100 years. No army, no drills, no noise, just calm, just smiles. And that is why we are afraid." The room grew quiet again, each species thinking deeply. Many had fought wars with each other. Some still did now, but the humans had fought no one and had won more respect than any fleet could earn. The spy was chosen a master of disguise from the shadow-dwelling Morathan species named Keln. He could blend in anywhere. His skin could change color, and his mind was sharp. He bowed to the council, his voice like a whisper. "I will walk among them. I will learn. I will find out what they fear and why they do not act." As Keln left the chamber, a final message was sent to all council members, sealed and private. It read in one cold line: "If they are hiding a weapon, it must be found. If they are planning something, we must strike first." The council chamber slowly emptied, leaving only shadows behind as stars blinked beyond the great windows of the hall. Earth was far away, but its silence echoed louder than any war drum. And now the galaxy wanted to know what lay beneath that silence. What secret waited on the blue planet that no one dared challenge far away in human space? Earth turned quietly, cities glowing peacefully, forests untouched, oceans calm. Not a single warship in orbit, not a single cannon aimed at the stars, just silence, deep, powerful, heavy silence. And somewhere in that silence was a choice, a warning, and a mystery. And now the galaxy had decided it could wait no longer to find the truth. The spy lands on Earth. The ship was small, dark, and silent, like a shadow moving through space. It slipped past satellites and scanners without leaving a trace. No one noticed when it entered Earth orbit, and no one saw when it released a single drop pod shaped like a falling stone. Inside the pod sat Kelm, the spy chosen by the Galactic War Council. His mission was clear: find out why humans had stopped going to war, and what they were hiding. As the pod entered the atmosphere, it burned red for a moment, then cooled quickly, transforming into a harmless weather drone before landing deep in a quiet forest. Kelm stepped out, already changed his form, now matched a human traveler. His eyes brown, his hair short, his face calm. He wore clothes like those seen in Earth broadcast, simple jeans and a jacket with a friendly smile fixed on his lips. He walked out from the trees and into the world of humans. The nearest town was peaceful. Children ran with laughter in the streets. Humans drank hot drinks outside small cafes. Music played softly from open windows. There were no guards, no patrols, no signs of fear, no signs of control. Kelm observed everything, noting how humans moved, how they greeted one another with warmth and laughter, and small touches on shoulders and hands. He had studied hundreds of cultures, but this was different. The peace here was not forced, it was lived. He passed a park where veterans sat on benches, old humans with medals on their jackets. They watched people walk by with soft eyes and worn faces. Kelm approached one man who looked up and nodded politely. Kelm sat beside him and spoke softly. "You are a soldier." The man chuckled. "Not anymore, son. I was once, but not for a long time." "Why did you stop fighting?" Kelm asked, curious. The man looked at the sky for a moment, then replied, "Because we learned what it cost. We thought we were strong when we had bigger weapons, but we were just loud. Strength came when we put the weapons down, but other species still fight. Why not humans?" The man turned slowly to Kelm and said a line that stayed with him forever. "We don't go to war because we remember too well what happens when we die." Kelm walked away from the park, lost in thought. He had not seen any signs of military, no training centers, no tanks, no fighters flying above, and yet he did not feel safe. Felt watched not by eyes, but by something deeper, something silent, as if the very land remembered pain and refused to feel it again. He traveled to a nearby city through electric trains that moved without sound along floating rails. The people on board spoke softly. They read books, they helped strangers. They wore small devices on their wrists, showing news, health data, and maps. One headline caught Kelm's eye: Earth to send more aid ships to the rim planets. Food, medicine, education, not soldiers. Never soldiers. The city was bright, but not loud. Energy flowed through transparent roads. Buildings cleaned themselves, trees grew on rooftops, and people smiled easily still. Kelm felt the weight beneath the calm, like a storm long past, but never forgotten. He entered a museum built inside a large dome. The walls glowed with history, and at the center stood a massive display labeled Earth's Last War. He moved closer, watching the holograms show cities burning, soldiers crying, skies full of fire, and people screaming in silence. One scene showed Earth united for the first time, not to fight an enemy, but to end the war itself. Global ceasefire documents displayed alongside broken weapons and burned flags. The room was quiet, filled with visitors, young and old, all reading, learning, remembering. A guide spoke nearby, not noticing Kelm as she explained to a group, "We don't hide our past, we teach it so we never return to it. After the last war we built something better, not just cities, but minds. We made rules, no armies, no warships, no weapons that destroy, only tools that heal. That is why we don't go to war, because we choose to grow." Instead, Kelm left the museum and walked under the night sky. The stars above were the same he had seen from other worlds, but something about them felt different here, as if Earth's peace reached even into space. He found a high hill and sat alone, his disguise flickering slightly as he sent a message back to the council. Observation complete. Humans do not prepare for war, they do not train. They do not build weapons, yet their peace is not weakness. It is controlled, chosen, and powerful. Their past was fire, but their present is calm. I have not found weapons, I have found will something deeper than machines. He paused before finishing the message. I believe they remember what war cost them, and that memory has become stronger than fear. I will remain and learn more, but I advise caution. Humans are not what they appear. They are not asleep, they are waiting, As he ended the message, the wind blew gently around him, carrying the scent of trees and soil and life. Earth was alive not just in nature, but in spirit. And Kelm, the master spy, the silent shadow, felt something he never expected in his long years of service. He felt uneasy, not because of what he saw, but because of what he didn't see. No walls, no guns, no threats, only peace. And for the first time, he realized maybe that was the greatest warning of all. The forgotten Wipanko stayed on Earth for days, then weeks, moving from city to city, changing his face and voice, blending into crowds, observing human life with growing confusion. He saw joy, art, progress, and kindness. He saw no hunger, no fear, no walls. Yet still the question burned in his mind: how could a species once so violent now be so calm? He did not believe in sudden change. He believed in hidden truths and buried secrets, and Earth was hiding something. He could feel it in the silence between their smiles. One evening, while pretending to be a visiting scientist, Kelm entered a research center located beneath the surface of a mountain. Access was granted easily with the fake credentials his people had designed. He walked through clean, white halls filled with soft lights and voices discussing medicine, data, energy, and life. Nothing here suggested weapons, nothing here screamed danger, but deeper levels were locked with stronger codes and colder air, the kind of silence that always wrapped around things not meant to be found. He bypassed the locks using cloaked tech from the Morathan Spy Corps and moved deeper into the complex. There were no guards, no cameras, just doors that should not open, and yet they did not resist him, as if Earth had nothing to hide, or perhaps did not care if someone looked. But in the lowest chamber, sealed behind layers of forgotten files, he found it a door marked with symbols not used anymore, faded words scratched in metal reading, Project Silence. The room beyond was wide and dark, its walls lined with screens and data storage units. A single chair sat in the middle, facing a terminal still active, glowing softly. Kelm sat down and touched the screen. It responded to his fingers with gentle acceptance, showing him records, names, dates, footage, and reports. He scrolled through years of data, seeing tests on energy waves, gravitational distortions, memory effects, and then simulations of planetary scale reactions. He watched as models of entire moons vanished without sound. No explosion, no debris, only stillness where matter once existed. No creature, no machine, no shield survived. The weapon did not burn or break, it erased. Without pain, without warning, without escape, it ended things so completely that even time itself bent away from it. Kelm leaned forward, eyes wide, throat dry, reading the summary at the bottom of the page. The final line, written in old human code, said, "We created the last war so we would never need the next. Project Silence was not just a weapon, it was a decision, a line drawn so deep into human soul that they feared crossing it again. It was the moment they chose peace, not because they were weak, but because they saw what they could do and chose to never do it again." Kelm stood slowly, backing away from the screen. He had seen death in many forms, but never one like this, never so quiet, never so final. He knew the council had to see this. He copied the files into a hidden drive and sealed it inside his own skin. Where no scan could find it, he erased all traces of his access and walked calmly out of the lab. No one stopped him, no alarm sounded. It was as if Earth had allowed him to look, had shown him what he came for, and let him go, not with fear, not with threat, but with understanding. That night, in a small room he had rented under the name Dr. Miles Harker, Kelm sat in silence, watching the stars outside the window, the same stars humans saw every night, the same stars his own kind stared at through the windows of warships. But here they looked different, calmer, older, wiser. He looked at his hands, wondering what it meant that humans had built the quietest weapon in the galaxy and then buried it under the weight of their own regret. He recorded a private log, not for the council, not for his masters, but for himself. Today, I saw the end, not fire, not screams, not blood, but silence. Humans made a weapon so complete that they became afraid of themselves, and so they stopped, they changed, and now they wear peace like a second skin. But that skin is wrapped around something terrible, something ancient and awake. I do not know if they are dangerous. I only know they are ready." He looked down at the floor, remembering the old man in the park who had said we remember too well. Keln understood now. The museums, the veterans, the peaceful streets were not signs of weakness. They were signs of memory. Humans remembered, and they chose to carry that memory not with pride, but with sorrow. And in that sorrow was strength, the kind that made others afraid, not because it shouted, but because it never needed to. Outside his window, a child ran by holding the hand of a parent, laughing loud in the night, their joy untouched by war, their world safe by choice, not by power. But the spy who had seen 1,000 weapons knew the truth behind that joy. It was built on something ancient, something quiet, and now the council would know. Too, he only hoped they would understand before it was too late. The truth reaches the War Council. The transmission tore through secure channels like a whisper wrapped in thunder. It arrived not with alarms or alerts, but with a low pulse coded in the language of shadows. The Galactic War Council gathered again, in the same high chamber, walls humming with light from distant stars, and eyes sharp with waiting. Every seat was filled, every voice hushed, as Kelm's message began to play. At first came the images: earth, skies, clear oceans, deep and untouched cities, filled with music and green roofs. No weapons, no armies, no warnings, just peace. Then came the footage from the hidden lab deep under the mountain, simulations of entire planets blinking out of reality, energy readings that twisted natural laws, memory fields that erased witnesses from their own minds. The weapon had no name, only a code: Project Silence. And the silence in the chamber grew heavy with every passing second. When the footage ended, Kelm's voice followed, calm and measured as always. Humans do not go to war because they have seen its end. They do not need to fight to prove strength, because they already reached the edge and chose to walk back. They built a weapon to end all weapons, and when they saw it work too well, they sealed it away and taught themselves to forget not the pain, but the path that led to it. Some council members shook their heads in disbelief, others sat frozen. Commander Zenther stood first, voice sharp like a blade through glass. "We always feared this, but now we see they did not surrender violence. They mastered it, and then they turned from it because it scared even them. The question is not if they can fight, it is what happens if they must." General Velik of the Iron Clans slammed his metal fist on the desk. "We must strike now before they remember, before they bring that silence down upon us. We cannot let them sit with such power and no leash." But others disagreed. Ambassador Volrix rose slowly, his voice calm. "The humans have shown no aggression, no conquest, no hunger. They have shared and healed and taught without demand. What species here has given more and asked less? If they wanted war, they had centuries to prepare, but they chose peace again and again. Yet the fear spread like slow poison." In the chamber, some argued humans were waiting for the right moment to rise. Others claimed this was all deception, a trap to earn trust before domination. Some wanted to break the silence with fire, send fleets to Earth, disable their systems, erase Project Silence forever. Council debated for hours, their voices rising, their alliances shaking fear and reason. Dancing like flames in dry grass outside the chamber, stars burned on in silence, indifferent to the choices of those below. But within the hall, a dangerous line was drawing between those who trusted humanity and those who feared it. In a quiet moment, a proposal formed, not from a warrior, not from a leader, but from a scientist named Ta of the Vayari Collective. Soft-spoken, with skin like shifting glass, she said, "We cannot fight what we do not understand, and we cannot destroy what we do not see. Perhaps it is time to talk to them directly. Send an envoy to Earth, not a spy, not a fleet, but a voice. Maybe they will answer." With more than silence, some laughed, some growled, but the room leaned into the idea. It was dangerous, yes, but war with Earth could be worse, and if there was even a chance to understand the truth, maybe it could save them all. So a vote was held. Lights flashed in the chamber, minds linked across species, and the answer came clear. A mission would be sent, not to attack, but to speak. A final chance to learn before fear turned to fire. Far from the chamber, in deep space, ships began to move quietly. Fleets shifting from standby to active, not launched, but no longer still, the kind of movement that came when claws hovered above buttons and generals. Watched stars with narrowed eyes, Earth had not changed, but the way others saw it had, in perception. Shaped power more than truth. As the council meeting ended, Commander Zenther stood alone by the glass wall, staring at the image of Earth floating like a blue gem in the void, his eyes narrowed, thoughts heavy. He whispered, not to anyone, but to the silence itself, if they ever choose to fight again, not one of us will survive. He turned and walked away, leaving behind only the echo of footsteps and the growing weight of choice. The message had been received, the secret was no longer secret, and now the galaxy would decide whether to trust the peace or fear the silence, because in the heart of calm rested the most terrifying truth of all, a species that had already defeated itself and chosen to rise without violence, not because it could not return to war, but because it knew exactly what war meant. The mistake the vote had ended, the record sealed, the council chambers emptied, but in the darkness behind the stars, not every hand waited for wisdom, and not every heart accepted peace, while the council prepared a peaceful envoy, a message of understanding and dialogue. Another plan was moving, fast, silent, and deadly through the cold of space. It did not wear the colors of a species or the seal of a vote. It moved with shadows and command lines whispered between admirals who feared what they had seen more than they feared the council itself. High Admiral Joruk of the Tharn Dominion never trusted the humans. His people had survived wars that burned entire moons, had fought empires twice their size with teeth and fire, and when he looked at Earth, he saw not peace but camouflage to him. Project Silence was not a weapon to fear, but a threat to erase. He gathered 5 stealth ships, black and angular, invisible to most scans, carrying enough firepower to burn continents. The mission was clear: enter Earth orbit, disable key systems, locate and destroy Project Silence before humans could ever think of using it. No warning was given, no council orders, no authorization. The fleet moved alone under the name of protection, but powered by fear. Their hulls shimmered through jump space and reached the edge of Sol system, slipping past planetary beacons and early detection nets. Earth hung ahead, blue and calm, lights twinkling across its dark side. No defense ships, no orbital cannons, no walls, just open skies and floating satellites like stars in formation on board. The Tharn command ship, Admiral Joruk, stood with arms behind his back, eyes cold as steel. He watched Earth through the view screen and whispered, "They think they are above us. They think silence is strength. We will show them that hiding is not power." He gave the order. Ships engaged, silent protocols, weapons warmed, targeting arrays locked on critical nodes across the planet, energy grids, communication towers, research labs, not to kill, not yet, but to paralyze. Then everything changed. Without flash, without sound, without impact, the first ship vanished, not exploded, not torn, just gone. Sensors turned blank, no debris, no signature. The crew of the second ship barely had time to scream before their systems collapsed, and the ship folded inward, like a shadow swallowing itself. Third, fourth, and fifth followed within seconds. Not one sound, not one trace. In the Tharn command center, alarms screamed, minds panicked, controls failed. Admiral Joruk shouted orders, but there was nothing left to control. All contact with the fleet was lost. Status boards flickered from green to empty, not red, not offline, just gone, as if those ships had never existed. Only silence remained, a silence that reached through space and gripped every heart that watched it. Happened back at the council station. Emergency messages arrived before anyone had moved to send the envoy, before any words of peace had left their ports. The mistake had already been made. The secret mission now exposed. The council chamber reopened faster than it ever had. Every species now sat not with questions, but with fear, not with debate, but with horror. Admiral Joruk was brought before them. Dragged in with eyes wide and breath shaking, he told them everything: the secret launch, the orders, the target, the loss. But he had no answer to what happened to the fleet. No logs, no sensor data, no warnings, just 5 ships, 5 crews, and then nothing. Ambassador Volric stood with sorrow on his face, and asked not what did you do, but what did they do in return, and Jorek whispered, I do not know, I do not think they needed to do anything at all. Across the galaxy systems, listen to the news fear. Spread not in words, but in the absence of them 5 ships from a major power had vanished over Earth. Without fight, without trace, without response, and Earth said nothing, no retaliation, no warning, no announcement, only the same silence as before. And that silence now spoke louder than any weapon on Earth. A single message was sent through open channels across the stars. It came not from generals or leaders, but from a small office in a city with green towers and blue rivers. One sentence wrapped in calm words and deep meaning, we do not go to war, but we will not accept war either. Council sat in stillness, minds full of questions, throats dry with dread. What defense had erased those ships? What line had been crossed, and what did it mean? That Earth did not respond with fire or threat, but only with words again, peace, but now with proof that behind it lived something no one wanted to see. Again they realized then the true weight of the mistake, not the lost ships, not the broken order, but the broken trust. And now the galaxy stood at a turning point, not because of what humans had done, but because of what they did not do. They did not strike, they did not explain. They simply remained calm, and for the first time in galactic history, peace felt more dangerous than war. The human response. The message arrived in the Galactic Council chamber, without warning, without encryption, without pride. Just a quiet stream of data gently entering every terminal across the known systems. No alarms triggered, no red lights flashed, yet every representative, every commander, every analyst turned to read it, as if drawn by instinct, drawn by the weight of something they could not yet name. We do not go to war, but we will not accept war either. 13 words, simple and clear, yet they carried the weight of 1,000 extinct worlds. They rang louder than missiles and cut deeper than plasma. The council chamber fell into complete stillness, as though time itself had paused, as though even the walls wanted to listen closer to the silence behind the sentence. Ambassador Volrix stood slowly, his translucent eyes dim. He looked around the room and spoke. The humans have responded. They have not denied. They have not threatened, but they have spoken. And in their silence we are now surrounded by answers, but not all felt calm. General Velik of the Iron Clans stood, fists clenched, voice hard. You call that a response? This is a warning. This is what they say before the skies burn. And yet the skies remained calm, the stars unchanged. Earth still rotated quietly as it always had. The people below walked their cities. The children played in parks. The birds flew across oceans, and the satellites drifted gently in orbit. No weapons fired, no armies moved, no retaliation came. But still the fear grew stronger, because silence without weakness was the most dangerous kind. Then something unexpected happened. The humans asked to speak, not through threat, not through command, but through diplomacy. They sent a single envoy, not a soldier, not a spy, not a politician, but a historian, a man named Elias Verne, dressed not in armor, but in simple gray fabric, carrying no weapon, no guard, only knowledge and memory and questions the galaxy had never dared to ask itself. He arrived at the council alone, walking calmly through the great doors, while the guards watched with hands trembling, unsure if they should salute or hide. He bowed slightly as he stood before them, his voice soft yet unshakable. I am not here to defend humanity. I am here to help you understand it. The council allowed him to speak, not because they trusted him, but because they could not risk misunderstanding him. And so Elias began with a story not of battles or victories, but of endings. He told them about Earth's final war, how it had consumed oceans and skies, how it had broken nations and poisoned generations. He described the moment the weapon had been activated, not to destroy an enemy, but to show what destruction truly meant. He told them about the silence that followed, not just around the weapon, but within humanity itself, a silence that stretched through cities and hearts, a silence that asked what kind of species they wanted to become, and the answer was not found in weapons or walls or borders. The answer was found in memory, in choosing to carry the pain and never repeat it. Some listened with tears, others with anger. One delegate shouted, "You expect US to believe you gave up war because of guilt, because of sorrow, because of some noble dream. Elias looked at him with eyes that had seen generations and said, we gave up war because we learned what it cost. We did not forget how to fight. We chose not to, and every day, since we have remembered that choice not as pride, but as burden. And that burden keeps us from becoming what we once were. Another asked, why create a weapon so terrible and then hide it? Elias replied, because we had to know how far we could fall before we chose to rise, because only by seeing the end could we find a new beginning. He paused, then looked at each delegate, his voice steady. I am not asking you to trust us. I am asking you to see us. We are not what we were, and we do not wish to become that again, but we will not allow anyone to take that choice from us. There was no applause when he finished, no cheers, no declarations, only quiet, heavy. Quiet like the moment before a storm or the breath before a decision. Elias bowed again and left, walking alone back through the same door he had entered, leaving behind a room filled not with anger or fear, but with reflection. And for the first time, the Galactic War Council began to understand that Earth's greatest weapon was not hidden underground or sealed in data. It was written into the hearts of its people, etched in memory, and spoken in silence. Outside the chamber, screens across 1,000 worlds displayed a simple message from Earth, not in bold, not in warning, just in truth. We remember what we were, and we choose what we are. May you never have to learn the way we did. And across the stars, from the cold moons of the Zarn to the burning skies of Velros, a new kind of question began to rise. Not what are the humans hiding, but what have they survived to become so still? The decision, the PC Council chamber filled again with species from every corner of the galaxy. They had waited and watched for answers, and now the moment had come to decide the fate of Earth. As the doors closed, the floor panels glowed under the feet of delegates who once spoke of war. Now they spoke of reflection and trust, or of fear and caution. Broad banners displayed the record of the vanished fleet and the simple message from Earth. Same message heard 1,000 times. We do not go to war, but we will not accept war either. The chamber was silent, heavy silence that carried more weight than any cannon or Viper missile. The vote was called once again. Voices rose not in anger, nor in demand, but in solemn assertion. One by one, each species named their choice. Leave Earth untouched, monitor from afar, but never provoke again. The final tally echoed in the quiet halls, a decision born of memory, pain, and respect for a choice rare in a galaxy of noise. The resolution was sealed. No fleet would move against the blue planet. No weapon would threaten its skies. Only watchful eyes would guard the calm. News of the decision spread across star lanes like gentle light, not like fire and ash. Scientists, scholars, diplomats, and traders from countless worlds set course for Earth, not with torpedoes, but with questions and open hands. The first envoys arrived on silent ships that glided through orbit and descended to open ports. Under shining glass domes, they brought records of ancient histories, hopes for shared knowledge, and gifts of art and song received without fanfare by citizens who had learned to build without war. Under gardens that floated above rivers of light, humans welcomed their guests with simple words and warm smiles. Strange foods were shared, stories were exchanged, and new bonds formed in halls once used only for lessons on why war must end. Everywhere charts glowed with data on healing new crops, wildlife restoration, medicine cures for old diseases, and blueprints for machines that turned sunlight into power. Calm. The spy watched all of this from a balcony high in the city. He had expected alarms, defenses, walls. Instead, he saw open plazas, schools where children studied alien languages, and markets alive with the energy of trades that carried no fear. He felt the echo of Project Silence still buried beneath human soil, and yet he felt more drawn to the living truth above ground. The truth of a people who carried hope like a torch in the night. He walked through the crowds, his skin reflecting network lights, and his heart heavy with understanding. He sent one final report to the council, not as a spy, but as a witness. The humans have never hidden their choice. They have built their world on memory and forgiveness. They hold no weapons, but they hold their history close, and that memory gives them strength that we cannot break or buy. Then Kelm turned from the message and stepped into the open square below, joining hands with a farmer, a poet, and a starship captain, as they formed a circle around a glowing hearth and offered him a seat in. That moment he saw not a silent weapon, but a living promise, a promise written in every leaf on Earth's trees, in every melody sung under the moons, in every stone carved by hands that had learned to build instead of destroy. The light from the hearth glowed warm against the blue night sky, and Kelm the spy, the shadow dweller, the invader in disguise, felt a choice settle in his soul. The galaxy can fight for victory, or it can learn from those who choose peace and make that their strength. In a galaxy where everyone wants to win, only humans learned how to stop the game.